Dictated by the spirit Joanna de Angelis. And the messages always live in peace, a clear conscience, one that is unencumbered with remorse about the past and unafraid in relation to the future, breeds harmony. No external circumstances can disturb a serene heart that beats to the rhythm of duty rightly fulfilled. Finding peace deserves every bit of effort on your part. It's a very short message, but I think it said it all. It says much uh, of what Andreia are about to share with us. On this reflection, on this page, I would like to invite you to our initial prayer, opening the works of this morning. Let's all be together in this effort of claiming for peace. Dear Father above, we are here asking your presence among all of us. We know that we are still far away from finding the peace that you proclaimed long ago, but we know that with you, we're going to find effort, we're going to find courage, we're going to find every little tool that can build inside of each and every one of us a new way of looking to the world outside. Help us to find your peace, not our peace. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share in this beautiful Sunday morning a few reflections, inviting our dear Andreia to be with us this morning. Thank you so much, and so be it. Well, now we're gonna invite our dear Andreia so she can share a little bit about this kind of peace, this different peace that the Master has proposed to us since the beginning. Thank you very much. Be very welcome, Andreia.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcelo. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Juan, Patricia. Good morning. Good morning, Cecilia. It's been a long, long time. Good to see you, even if virtually. And good morning, Susanna, and anyone else who may be watching right now who has not said hello, please feel free to do so. We actually were inspired by this topic from a book that is soon to be released, which is called Empty Lives by Joanna de Ângelis, and then Full Life also by Joanna de Ângelis. And we actually were reflecting about the world that we live in, and considering how important it is to think about peace in a way that is unique to how is it that we can find. Thankfully, today we have a lot of tools of resources that are invaluable to us in the spirit of cultivation. And as immortal spirits that live with, that have lived successive lives, that have come and gone, and specifically in today's present incarnation, reincarnation, geology usually is going to remind us that as spirits, spiritism offers valuable resources so that through the experiences and knowledge, the spirit is prepared to engage and be able to face the internal and the external struggles that is natural when we look at the fact that we are progressing, that we are evolving in such a way that we want to value life, to appreciate it, and to work on self-knowledge in order to be able to access these areas within so that we can find the guidelines, happiness, that happiness and that peace needs to be awakened. It's actually still see the let's see about that. She talks about the courage that we need to cross the bridge between the pages that is offered in the spiritual purification study experience book by Allan and also the gospel of Jesus, the two books that truly renew highly current, yet misunderstood or not at all access by many people to find the peace within. So let me see if I can get my slide working here. There we go. Allan Kardec in the Spirit's book. Sorry, let me go. Not sure why I don't have my slide here by Allan Kardec, so let me remove it. And I'm going to read the comments by Allan Kardec in the Spirit's book. He states, with Spiritism, humankind must enter a new phase, moral progress, which is Spiritism's inevitable consequence. Okay, what does that mean? And what does that have to do with finding inner peace? You may be asking. And as we go through our reflection, we're going to find that it has everything to do with what we're talking about, because Joanna de Ângelis is going to say that when we actually have the Spiritist codification, this resource available, and also the gospel of Christ, it becomes our own duty to actually be able to reach into the truth of our own soul, to find what it is that is causing us affliction, what it is that is tormenting, what it is that is causing so much turmoil within, and we actually say, I just can't find peace of mind, or I am not at peace, or I can't find serenity here. And she says, we need to identify the real deep reasons behind the disturbances and try to replace them with something noble, with something. And in order to do that, we must be conscious. We must actually try to look within and do that which is actually contained in the Spirit's book, in the Spirit instinct. Know thyself, meaning seek within that which is still causing you to struggle, that is still holding you back. So she will say, as immortal spirits, already aware of our immortality, already aware of the future life, it is our responsibility because we know that whatever we sow we reap according to our own evolutionary level, according to our spiritual maturity, as we continuously move towards the glorious destination, which is perfection, relative perfection. Yes. So, in this sense, we're going to find here the homogeneity statement. And when we look at today an analysis of the present, very society is that we already know. The high levels of religion and collective violence, devastating the world of and this we already know. Success leads all criminality to larger and cultivating driving almost everything and everyone into the abyss of this. She continues. Disregard for the law and indifference over the destiny of mankind generates implicit panic among the less resilient and depression, the result of many other factors as well. talking about people. And find those that haven't found something yet to strengthen it. We see the finish that is increasing and the result of these factors, which assumes condemnation. So we see this happening in our society too. Allan Kardec states that Spiritism, when better understood in its essential touches the most sensitive fiber of humankind, and to go on to see happiness and peace, even in this world, its influence has not yet extended to the masses, but it has already begun to happen, those who have come to understand it, really the key of peace. And so here we are again and again talking about the need to understand spiritualism so that we can have in close a peace love. In essence, when we understand, there will be trouble, there will be friction, there will be challenge, and yet we look in spiritism at resources that we can become resilient. And so we actually have the resources to be able to look into ourselves and try to find that which is still causing us affliction, that is taking the peacefulness out of us. And you might say, well, the world is in need of peace. Maybe it is. We're talking about finding peace in you, finding peace within individuals so that collectively we can actually have an impact. And so when I look at that starts talking about the benefits of studying spiritism, and it brings about three phases, starting with the phase of the phenomena of the spirit manifestation that can with the previous learnings, he actually comes to the second part of the journey here, which is actually understanding and applying it in our lives. He's going to actually answer in the conclusion of the Spirit's book, saying that even though we have witnessed the Spirit of physical phenomena, will state that apart from the phenomena, Spirit is philosophy, Spirit is science, and Spirit is religion explains what nothing else has explained. And this is not to put any other philosophy or religion down, it's just a fact because it talks about the simple reasoning where we find rational explanation for the problems that are solved, that interest us the most, which is that of our future. Where am I going? Where have I come from? And what is expected of me? What is actually the finality of my life, the objective? And so when we learn about it, and we actually are able to believe it because of this rational thinking that Spiritism provides, he states that that is a factor in itself that provides peace within, that provides security and confidence in the soul, because it frees us from the torment of uncertainty, of the unknown, rendering us actually the aspects of life that actually tells us what it is actually all about. And so I want you guys to see Spiritism has not rendered things better in its unhappy by encouraging the purest gospel immorality that is very much pleased with very good. And this is why the Lord Jesus stated that it is necessary to cross that bridge that actually is between the pages of Spiritism and that of the Gospel, so that we can understand the finality of morality, of ethics, which is very much praised, appreciated, but we are not yet practicing. And so we say Spiritism is powerful because it is supported on the very basis of religion itself. God, the soul, future rewards and consequences based on the law of action and reaction, especially because it shows the rewards for the unhappy states of the mortal beings to be the natural consequences of the life. What does that mean? Well, simply, if you open Heavenly Door, specifically the second part, where we find the testimonies of spirits in their own different conditions, we are going to understand exactly what Allan Kardec is talking about. Spirits in average stable conditions, spirits who are unhappy in the life after life, spirits who committed suicide, happy spirits, life that was actually wasted with the spirit of being valued more to the material aspect of it than that of the Lord. And so he said, when we understand spiritually, that knowledge invites anyone who actually wishes to access it. Hope and true opportunity in the sense that we start looking at each other with more compassion. So when I look at those that are connected right now, let's say that it is Juan or Patricia, we are going to say that we actually, oh, you guys are having fun with the sound. Let me see here. Can you guys hear me now or is it still hard? Just one second. Hold on, guys. Hold on. No, no. Seems to be can't hear. Hello, hello. How does it sound now? So is it better or is it still acting up? Let me hear from you guys. Okay, I'm gonna continue. I don't know if you guys can offer me a feedback, but I'm gonna try to continue and hopefully we can post this video later on. So let me continue. Joanna de Ângelis comes back to us and she talks about some of the factors that actually contribute to the lack of peace within our lives. She talks about the fact that many people promote gossip and curiosity around some of the trivia that actually takes on undeserved significance in our lives, while at the same time causes the type of emptiness given the fact that often we seek the exhibitionism of tormented individuals that makes news but yet offer nothing in return through the virtual artifices. So what is she talking about? She's talking about the fact, sounds good? Okay, good. Okay, thanks, guys. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. So she talks about some of this factor that she says when we actually embark in it, it's actually what's causing the disquietude within our soul. She talks about disoriented ambitions, unjustifiable worries that actually reign and torments our mind. She talks about the fact that often we look at life, the goal of life, as that social pleasure, seeking social pleasure, seeking social approval, which causes envy in some and dislike in others. So when we look at the virtual artifices that we have, Instagram, for example, and we all like Instagram. I use Instagram. I think it's a great tool for promoting what we enjoy, for looking at things that we enjoy. We are going to find a lot of people utilizing it, tormenting themselves by comparing their reality to that which they think is the reality that they see in the screen. So she talks about these illusions that are produced in this exaggerated panorama, in this exaggerated landscape that we think exists, pulling individuals from their reality and actually causing the distraction and also creating this landscape of fantasy, which is unattainable. So it's as if we stop looking at our lives and considering the reality of it, considering the truth of it. What is it that we are seeking for ourselves without comparing our lives to someone else? So she will go on to say, one gets the impression that only the dream of possession and power promotes well-being, even if it pulls the trigger of inner dissatisfaction and fear of not being able to enjoy it indefinitely. I will take the opportunity to promote a documentary on Netflix that actually should be watched by parents, by teenagers, by anyone who's trying to understand a little bit better about what Joanna de Angeli is talking from a spiritist perspective, which is the documentary called Social. My goodness, forget the name. If you guys remember here, I remember. I'll come back and say it. But it actually talks about how all of these factors are creating a sense of anxiety in the teenagers and the young adult, which is actually the major factor of depression. So we have to be very mindful. Social Dilemma is the name of this Netflix documentary that I'm talking about. She also talks about the exaggerated need to actually the valorization of our physical body, the appearance. And she says all of this need to have this perfect body, to be so concerned with the external body instead of being mindful of the spirit, is actually what is actually increasing the demands of the ego, promoting even more anxiety when we are unable to attain that which we think is perfect. So we've seen a lot of cases where people are actually going through surgery to reconstruct their physical body, which is nothing wrong if it's actually something that is going to build the self-esteem. But I remember a psychotherapist that I used to see a while back talking about how a lot of people, when they seek to keep changing their physical appearances and they look in the mirror and they are not happy with what they're seeing, actually unconsciously they're looking within. So when we look for this exaggerated need to do the surgeries to modify our physical body over and over, when there's really nothing wrong with it, it's just the need to be looking perfect, something is wrong within, and we should be looking inside. What is it that we are not happy with that we wish to modify? And she goes on to say, the demands of modern technology have imposed the behavior of speed, so that one may appreciate all of the contributions of the virtual communication while preventing someone to actually, or everyone that is doing this, to actually dive into the normal questions of existence. So it's an escape, it's a distraction that we need to be mindful of. So as a consequence, she talks about the emotional torments that is increasing in people's highly fragile structure, giving in way to sadness, to depression, and in many, even violence. Because it's the psychological stability that is necessary for one's realization. And without it, we will be unable to manage the different events that happen at every moment in our daily lives. It is for this reason, this days that we have with continuous challenges, that we need to find something that is going to provide us peace, that is going to provide us harmony, that is going to provide us tranquility, serenity, confidence, and courage to be able to face them head on. However, a lot of people look at this idea of struggle as something negative, when in reality, Joanna de Angelis states that struggles are the messengers of order. It is the messenger that comes to tell us that we need to enable and find inner harmony. If we are struggling, that's what she says. And when we look at people that we admire, Mother Teresa, when we look at people like Chico, Xavier, when we look at people, anyone that we admire, so that we find, my goodness, how is it that they're so peaceful, that they always have something nice to say, that they always seem to be balanced and in harmony? That is not to say that they didn't find themselves struggling, but rather that they were able to find the resources to be able to face them with confidence in God, the benevolent spirits, and even in themselves. So Joanna de Angelis states, if you really want to maintain a healthy outlook, one that is going to promote true happiness, be sure to equip yourself with patience, with perseverance in every situation in which you find yourself. Press on without stopping, step by step, so that you may be able to achieve your priority goal. And that we shouldn't be discouraged when obstacles come our way, or even be afraid of failing at first, And this is something else that actually generates this sense of unquietness, this quietude within, because we are so afraid of failing, as if failure is something negative, but rather they are experiences. Failures is actually what's going to foster us with the skills to be able to succeed when we actually are faced with that same trial once again. So it's okay if we make a mistake. It's okay if we fail at first. If at first you don't succeed, try again. We're talking about experience. And she says that we should keep in mind the need to seek the self illuminating achievements that is of the soul, which is actually going to bring about love, trust, and dedication towards oneself and others as well. Continuous education, that is. Let me see if my slide is going to work now. Here we go. She says, let me share with you guys. There are all kinds of detours leading to nowhere along the winding roads to peace and self-realization. And the matter of the fact is the type of detours we encounter are able to be actually worked on, that are actually able to be contoured. When we look at the water and there are rocks in it, they actually flow around it. They don't stop, unable to continue their natural flow of life, of existence. And we are able to do the same. I invite you guys to do an exercise right now, looking back at your life, at something that was actually really difficult, where you thought you were unable to overcome, and see how you were able to do it. It was this natural detour that Joanna de Ângelis talks about. And as she continues in this personal need to find peace, she states that when we are actually able to find it, when we are actually able to keep it, this sense of tranquility, of harmony, of peace within, we actually have the ability to touch someone else. She says, it's been stated that when one member of a family member has found peace, that the whole family benefits from it. Look how interesting this is. A lot of people say, I don't have peace in my home. Where if I'm a bearer of peacefulness, of tranquility, of harmony, facing the challenges and the difficulties, which is actually part of our lives in a world of trials and expiation, she states that the whole family benefits from it. Consequently, if a family benefits on it, she talks about the fact that the reflections of it actually is going to have an impact of our neighborhood. On a street where a life is valued and others actually feel this impactful effect, she says that the entire neighborhood, the entire city and the region actually feels the effect. So what she's talking about is the need to individually try to increase this for the collective part of actually finding peace within. So she says, peace is a bearer of blessings that promote the ability to show love and charity. Love for one neighbor, charity towards other. And here is where we're going to dive into the gospel according to Spiritism, because the gospel according to Spiritism is actually going to allow us, as we are on our own journey, in different stages of maturity, in different stages of our own spirituality, to find the resources to be able to find peace within. And it wasn't by chance that Allan Kardec actually brought that invaluable teaching of the gospel, which is blessed are the peace loving, for they shall be called children of God. And they brought an entire chapter that talks about insult and violence, that talks about affability and meekness, that talks about the need to have patience, obedience and resignation, and finally anger. It is as if we have an entire book before us that is offering us material to be able to meditate and reflect on ourselves. Why is it that I lose my calm in traffic? Why is it that I react with anger, with impatience? What is it that makes me become actually irritable in the way that actually become irrational? This is what this entire chapter is about. It brings about for us the awareness so that we make sure that our actions is actually going to be made with the right choices all the way forward, not backwards, meaning we grow, we evolve, we take advantage of the situation. We are no longer asleep. She says that the gospel of Christ, aligned with the Spiritist teaching, is going to become that roadmap for behavior. And in every challenging situation, we are going to be able to think about Christ, to connect with him and ask, what would he do if he was here in my place to make a decision? Well, Andreia, I'm not Christ, but a lot of the teachings, a lot of the situations in which he was before, actually, he came to actually exemplify how many instances in the gospel we see Christ keeping that peacefulness, that serenity, when he was actually argued with, when he was actually mocked at, when he was actually humiliated. We find him in every situation showing us how to live, how to do, because of the fact that he is the teacher, he is the master. And it wasn't by chance that he brought us in the Beatitudes. Blessed are the meek, the peace loving, for they shall be called children of God. And that's in Matthew chapter 5, verse 9, if you want to dive a little bit into that. He comes to us promising us his peace, affirming that he could only give it to us. This is because he talks about our life, or he teaches us about the life as being a consequences of our own individual behavior, in the way that we experience life and in the way that we try to live by him, meaning by his teachings, his serenity in every situation, showing us the greatness of his ethical values, calling us to try to develop those inner virtues within. Patience is a virtue. And a spirit friend, which is actually Joanna de Ângelis, she talks about patience in such a way because they actually understand what we are going through. They actually know what we are actually going through because they've walked our paths as well. After the fact that we have become in contact with Spiritism, that we have this body of knowledge to assist us, Allan Kardec is going to say, Spiritists, better than anyone else, should understand the way of life because we actually have been in contact with the extent of God's goodness. God's greatest proof of love for his children is reincarnation, that gives us this possibility to develop all of the virtues of the soul as we strive for that relative perfection. And Allan Kardec says, Spiritists ought to live that their entire life should be an act of love and devotion, that no matter what they may do to oppose the Lord's wishes, his justice will take its course. And so when we look at other people acting a certain way that actually makes our blood boil, we look at Christ and we remember his examples. We look at the Spiritist teachings and look at the other with compassion. We actually try to reach deep within to find that peace and be calm and tranquil. I was talking to a friend this morning, and we were remembering a situation where I lost my calm, and this happened, and I'm sure it happens quite often with a lot of us. And she said, "You know, you still have 20 years behind me, and I used to be just like you. And now I just look at the person and I look at them with compassion and love. And I remember that they are my brother, that they are my sister, and they're their own evolutionary road. They are in their own level of maturity, not looking down at them, but looking with understanding and compassion." And so Allan Kardec comes and says that spiritists actually should live according to the teachings that we have been exposed to, because it's the truth with actually capital T. So what did Jesus mean by blessed are the meek, the peace loving, for they shall possess the earth? Is it like physically? No. He was talking about the matter of the fact that we shouldn't attach so much importance to the physical, but rather that we should actually give more importance of the things of the soul. So let me see if I can find in my slide here that is not working with me today for some reason. Here we go. This is the slide that I'm actually going to give full slide, full page here. so that we can read together. Joanna de Ângelis is going to say, life is difficult, I know. It is composed of 1,000 nothings, which are pinpricks that end up hurting us. But we must consider the duties imposed on us, the consolations and the compensations that we receive in return. And then we will see that the blessings are more numerous than the sorrows. The burden seems less heavy when we look to heaven than when we actually let our brow bend toward the ground. Courage, my friend, she states. Christ is your model. He suffered more than any of you and had nothing for which to reproach himself, whereas you have your past to expiate and to strengthen you for the future. So be patient. The Christian, be Christian. This word sums up everything. And she actually comes and brings this to us. I find it to be one of the most beautiful teachings in the gospel in this chapter of Blessed are the meek, in the item patience, because she actually comes as if to say, I know what you're going through. I actually received all those pinpricks that hurt you right now. I've actually stepped on your shoes, but I know what I'm talking about today. Be courageous, have courage, practice patience. Try to not live in violence. Try to not live by insults, meaning when other insults us, let's remember Christ instead of acting violently. Let's try to live our lives with meekness. Let's try to search for the meaning of obedience and resignation. Obedience, the consent of our reason, and then resignation, the consent of the heart. Instead of being in constant turmoil, instead of being in constant lack of tranquility and peace. No, 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 no. If I am at home and I have a hard to live with partner, let me try to see why I am placed beside him or her. Let me see when he or she insults me because he or she had a bad day. Instead of reacting, act. Act with benevolence, with charity, with kindness. This is the development of love that they were talking about. And so Joanna de Ângelis, she actually comes to us and she says, if you desire such peace, if you desire such peace, follow the master and imitate him whenever you can. And without realizing it, you will be storing up the peace that make you a true child of God. So the answer in where can I find my peace, find your peace, is actually in this final phrase by Joanna de Ângelis. She says, I'm going to repeat again. If you desire the type of peace that actually brings about a type of life that we desire, follow the master and imitate him whenever you can. Meaning, we're going to fail. There will be times where it will be hard to do. But then she says, without realizing it, you will be storing up the peace that makes you a true child of God. It is a truly beautiful sentence and study that she brings in this book, Finding Peace and Health, which is actually part of the psychological series, because in reality, we need to look for these tools, for these resources, because without it, life is going to be quite hard. And we will be exploding on people. We will be road raging. We are going to be violent. We are going to actually give back the insults that we receive. And those are nothing like the practice of Christ. So perhaps what we need to do is reflect a little bit more on how we are actually having our relationship with Christ. How is it that we are utilizing his teachings to make a difference in our lives? How is it that we are going to be able to store up this peace and look for ways to do so that we can reach the objective of our existence, which is progress? We don't know what tomorrow brings. This is another teaching of Christ. For each day we have a battle. Leave tomorrow for tomorrow. Stop the anxieties and have faith in God and in Christ. For the day that we are living now, the present, is the one that we need to be paying attention to. A lot of people live in anxiety of the tomorrow. What if this happens? 80% of our worries, I think, doesn't come true. So let's look for alternative, for that which we can replace in our minds when the going gets tough, I guess is the saying, and try to see how we can actually soften a little bit the worries that take up our hearts, that keeps us awake at night. Are we actually trusting in God and in Christ? Are we actually strive to imitate him, to become like the master, to become like the teacher? This is what we need to find. And certainly, if we look in prayer, if we look in meditation, if we look in the uplifting reading material that is available today, certainly we are going to be able to find peace day by day, step by step, as the benevolent spirit Joanna de Angeli teaches us. Remembering that everything that happens, whether we fail or we succeed, are actually experiences, so that we don't become tormented with guilt, so we don't become tormented with remorse, but rather we learn from it. We pick ourselves up and we continue and carry on with Christ. On this note, I'm going to thank you for your attention, for your patience with the sound that was bad. I'm so sorry with some of the material, and I thank Raquel for telling me maybe the background was interfering. Hopefully, when we actually post it online, it's going to become better. If not, we'll try to repeat the study sometime in the future. And I thank you so much for participating with us. Before I do my final prayer, I would like to tell you that we have found a place. We are so happy, ecstatic for having found a beautiful place to start our physical meetings. But as we did even prior to the pandemic, we will continue online with our presentations, whether it's in Portuguese or in English, it's going to continue. But we are in need of assistance, financial assistance. So if you've seen in our pages on Instagram and Facebook a GoFundMe, remember that 100% of your donations will go to the Conscious Living Spiritist Group, money that is really needed for the type of work that we actually have to do in the physical location, so that we can receive you and embrace you eye to eye, heart to heart in the embrace. On this note, let us close our eyes, or not, keep it open if we wish, in our gratitude to our Master Jesus for this morning that we have had, for the ability to have woken up, because it is a new day where we can live, or we can learn, where we can reflect, where we can actually take advantage of the added time that we have in our lives, in this existence, remembering that we are students of the Master in this beautiful school that we call Earth. It doesn't matter what country, state we are from. It doesn't matter the culture that we have come from. We are actually his sheep. And so we have our pastor, our Master Jesus, taking care of us. And that in itself is a reason to find peace within. We ask your blessing, dear Jesus, for our family members, for our friends, for those that are connected with us at this time. And we ask to stay with us always. So be it. Have a wonderful week, my friends, a wonderful Sunday. We miss you so much, and we send you our hugs at this time. Have a great day.